Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Van, and today for Book Trek 2024, we are going to be talking about Star Trek Time for Yesterday by A.C. Crispin. So Book Trek is an annual event, reading event in which we basically read and celebrate Star Trek fiction. It's super nerdy. I'll leave the information for it down in the description below. I've got some great bridge crew going along with me, co-hosts. And yeah, it's just a time to kind of relax and geek out about Star Trek fiction. I'm a teacher, and Star Trek fiction for quite a few years now has sort of been like my version of a summer beach read. And in fact, I did read a chunk of this at the beach, at the ocean, just last week. And yeah, I have to say I was pretty impressed with this book. So in the original series, there was an episode, I believe it's called All Our Yesterdays. Hopefully I'm remembering that correctly, in which the Enterprise, it's been a long time since I've seen the episode, goes to a planet where the sun is going to be going supernova, so the planet will be destroyed. And they find that the population has basically gone back in time within their own planet in order to survive. Spock and McCoy end up accidentally getting thrown back in time on that planet to the Ice Age. There is a woman there named Zara Beth, who is from their time but has been sent back, and she can't leave that time period. But as Spock is there, he is basically reverting to the way Vulcans used to be 5,000 years ago, which means he is losing his logic and he's becoming more primal. And he ends up having some conjugal relations with Zara Beth. Of course, the way things go, he ends up getting back to his own time, becoming normal Spock again. Zara Beth has to stay back, and, you know, the episode resolves itself. And then A.C. Crispin posited, well, what happens if, or, you know, what if something happened with that conjugal night? So she wrote a book called Yesterday's Sun, in which Spock realizes, due to archaeological evidence, that Zara Beth did indeed become pregnant, and he has a son, and he uses the Guardian of Forever, which was also in the original series. It's a way to go back in time, to go back and retrieve his son Zar and bring him into the world. And that was a very kind of character-driven novel. It was Zar adjusting to life. Zar was an adult in his 20s, and Spock really trying to come to terms with the fact that he basically had this son out of wedlock, and he had a very hard time connecting to him, of course, due to his, you know, basically repression of emotions and lots of other things that he was being conflicted with. Now, I guess I have to sort of spoil a bit of Yesterday's Sun, but that Zar on there on this book, and Zar finds himself back in time again. I won't give any more information than that. So Zar, by the end of that book, is back in time somewhere. And now we get to this book. This is like 14 years later, if I remember correctly. And there's something going wrong with the Guardian of Forever. And it is basically causing time to go haywire in different parts of the universe. So you have stars that are going like red giant supernova way before they're supposed to, and planets being destroyed, and, you know, people just gone to blink of an eye because of a time wave, that sort of thing. So they don't know why the Guardian is malfunctioning, and they need somebody who is basically psychic enough, that has a telepathic link, that can communicate with the Guardian in order to try and figure out what's going on with it. And it just so happened Zar, in the first book, did seem to have the ability to communicate telepathically with the Guardian of Forever. So they decided they're going to have to go and retrieve him. Zar is going through problems of his own during that time. He is an older man now. He's around, I think, his 40s or so. And so the first part of the book deals with the problems with the Guardian of Forever. The middle chunk of the book is going back to where Zar is, and that ends up being a little bit more, more like almost fantasy. We're kind of in this Bronze Age world, and there's kind of political intrigue and the upcoming battle. And then the final third, we start seeing all those different stories start to resolve themselves. And once again, A.C. Crispin has written a book that is, I think, pretty much more character driven. She's very, very good about getting inside the characters' heads and considering how they would think and feel about certain things. She really doesn't leave anything on the table. Everything that could be considered, I think she basically covers. And that includes, the other thing is that's kind of interesting with this is Spock. In the first book, Spock was original series Spock. In the 5-year mission where he is very kind of cold and calculating and struggling with his emotions, the Spock of this is after he has had contact with V'Ger during Star Trek The Motion Picture. So this Spock is much more in balance with his sort of human and Vulcan side, his logic and his emotions. And he is much more easily able to communicate and relate to his son. And his son realizes this sort of thing. So it's kind of cool to see a different Spock now in this. She definitely was very, very conscious of that. And we have like reactions from, of course, McCoy and Kirk. It's really that trifecta again. Uhura plays a little small role, and we see Sulu a little bit, but there's not a lot of other people that we see. Scotty very briefly. In the second half of the book, especially, the main focus is on Zar. And you can tell that Crispin really kind of loves his character, and maybe a little bit too much at times. It seems a little bit too much like he's getting almost too much heroic focus at the expense of some of our Star Trek crew. That's a very minor sort of, I wouldn't even say criticism. It was just something I was noticing as it was going through. But still, I was very engaged. I was pleased to read the whole thing, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. So you would of course have to have seen the All Our Yesterday's episode, but if you're interested in these books, I think that Yesterday's Sun, the first book, and this make two really, really solid original series novels, really great two-parters. So yeah, I would actually highly recommend them both. If you have read this, love to hear your thoughts. If you're following along a book trek and reading Star Trek books, please let me know what you're reading. And yeah, as always, thank you, BookTube.